when you love your job or when you don't love your job. So I do hope that you are in a good place right now. And for those who just logged in or who just joined us, could you let us know, like raise a hand so that I could see your name, even if I don't see your face, knowing that you're here. Jeremiah, hi. Hi. Oh my golly, you are so participative. I love it. All right. Thank you so much for being here. So let me just formally welcome you all. Good afternoon. I am honestly nervous, but at the same time, very, very excited to have you here with us. My name is Jardine, and I will be your host for this afternoon. So we are Valhalla, and we are a software company providing software solutions to clients, both local and international. One of the core values that we really uphold as a tribe is engagement, full engagement. So we just don't limit ourselves with the confines of the company or the office, but we make sure that we expand and we extend whatever engagement that we have, especially with reaching out to communities such as you guys. So thank you once again. And you know what I like about this kind of event? When people are coming in, I like how you actually decide for yourself which avenue you are going to join that you find valuable or that you find is something that can help you grow and become a better version of yourself. So thank you for seeing us as something that you find value of. And what we are doing right now is a gift, so I hope you will love it. So today is our title for our webinar today is Uncertain Future of Your IT Career. And you know what I love about our title is that we just have to remove two letters, and that would just ultimately shift your paradigm, because despite the uncertainties that we're having right now, we do have the option, we do have the power to take control of our decisions and be certain of it. We will know more about that in quite a bit. Our program is divided into two parts. The first part, I will have my código, if you don't mind. Our first part is expanding your possibility space, wherein we will have three segments, and then the other one, the second part is we'll talk about high performance habits for happiness. All right. So before we proceed, guys, just a heads up, in case we might have internet connection disruptions, please do bear with us. We are doing our very best to make sure that this event will go smoothly. And aside from that, we have a chat room. I can see that many of you are already saying hi, and I cannot really see the chat, but we do have Jai as our chat curator for your questions. Whatever questions you have, we'd be more than happy to answer them for you. And if we do not have time, we will still attend to your questions. We would still reach out to you. As a matter of fact, our speakers are open to connecting with you via LinkedIn. So we'll provide you our LinkedIn um, accounts or LinkedIn links as well. All right. So without further ado, let us take this show on the road. So we'll call on our introductory speaker who will tell us how to create certainty in your career in this quite uncertain time. Now, this first speaker, he is Valhalla co-founder. He is entrepreneur and mentor. But most of all, he is a genuine friend. Help me welcome Eli Harrell. Take it away, Eli.
Hey, Jardine. Can everyone hear me okay? All right, so good afternoon, and thank you so much, Jardine, for putting this event together and for facilitating and hosting. So to everyone out there listening, I will basically just give you kind of 10 minutes of a little bit of introductory ideas of the reasons we wanted to create this event in the first place. Again, my name is Eli. I'm from the US, but I've lived here in Cebu for more than 6 years now. So the Philippines are my home. And today I'm going to be talking to you about certainty. And throughout my life in the past, during, let's say, the decade of my 20s, I grew up around the people that I grew up around, in the place that I grew up in. And what happens when you don't really know what's happening, but as you grow up in a certain environment, you're being sort of automatically trained with a definition of what a successful life looks like. And we sort of often just go down this path of what everybody around us thinks we should do. And we end up in a life sometimes that we didn't necessarily create. And so what I want to talk to you a little bit about right now is just the challenge of not being certain. And right now in most people's lives, there's a lot more uncertainty than usual because of what's happened over the last 6 months and globally. And so when you look at your life, in order to be happy, one of the things that I really spend a lot of time studying is what exactly does make people happy. I like to study the human experience and try to understand better what makes a good life and what makes me happy, what makes other people happy, what makes us healthy. And so on the screen right now, you can see some things that I think are really important to, as we go through life, we end up, kind of get up to the age of adulthood, go through school, get your diploma, go into the job market. And as you look for a job, you want some basic things, right? One of the main things that we want is security. We want to feel confident that our families are going to be taken care of, that we have a job that's stable, that we're making enough money to where we don't need to worry about the basics, and that our families will be safe and that they'll be healthy, right? And we want that feeling. We also, what I found is that humans need to feel a consistent feeling of progress where we're learning and growing. So as I talk to a lot of different people when I'm interviewing people or just talking to my friends, it's a consistent theme that I notice people are really looking for in their job or in their business. It's like they want to be learning and growing. We want new experiences. We don't want a boring life. We want to have, that's like a lot of people like to travel because of it. It's always something new. And we don't want our lives to be full of suffering. We want to be reasonably peaceful and reasonably healthy throughout our lives, right? But when we look at the options out there in the world, sometimes we might feel like options are a bit limited. Like maybe you feel like the employment or business options that are in front of you may not be that many. And perhaps it's easy to feel like progress is slower than we want. I remember in my 20s, I had a lot of visions for myself, a lot of dreams that I wanted to accomplish, and I had timelines for them. And those timelines didn't really pan out. Most of them did not. So it felt like progress was slow. I've also been in times of my life where jobs got really boring because I was just doing the same thing over and over and over again. And I've also been in positions where it was really full of struggle, like stress and, things like if you work in a toxic environment and the people around you are always negative, you don't really like what you do because it makes you feel bad, right? All right, so there's often a mismatch between what we want and the options that we know that we think we have in front of us. So what I want to talk about just briefly I'm basically just introducing to you what the purpose of all the speakers in front of you that you'll be listening to next, why we put this event together. And the way I look at it is that I think most of us end up kind of going through life a bit incidentally. And what I mean by incidentally is I grew up, as I said, around the people I grew up with, my family, my friends, my culture. And I pretty much just started creating the life that looked like it was what I should go for. I should try to own a house. I should, you know, the usual path. And the way we usually go about making choices in life, what most of us end up doing is we either we just go with what we know, right? I mean, whatever's, it's like if you go to a, let's say, a hotel buffet restaurant, and you go up to the food, you only can choose the food that's in front of you. You wouldn't really think about ordering something, because that's not the way it's set up. It's set to just choose what's there. So this is what we usually do. We kind of go with what we know. We go with what's been laid in front of us. We also will ask other people for advice in life decisions, but often the people that we know kind of only know the same things. That's what they've been taught too. This is the path, right? And we often just choose from what's in front of us. At the end of the day, though, a lot of times when we go down the path that's just in front of us, we end up wanting and wishing for something more. And so what I'm suggesting to you in this speech is that it's actually more possible than you think to create an intentional life. And it wasn't until my early 30s when I started realizing that I had sort of built a life that I didn't really choose. I ended up kind of feeling like, wow, I got a lot of what I wanted, but it wasn't really what I wanted. It wasn't making me happy. And so what I've learned since then, in the last 10 years or so, is that the world is much bigger than we think. There are so many more options than we're aware of. And it really does work to be able to choose your life intentionally. And so what I want to introduce to you as ideas are that we can actually predetermine our future by choosing our own criteria. And this is what doesn't happen when we're growing up, is normally we are not choosing our criteria. We think we only have certain ones to choose from. We can actually ask the world for what we want, and we can find a match. And I'll give you an example. I have found cars when I wanted to buy a car in the US. I found places to live, like an apartment to rent or a house to rent. I found many times partners to be in business with, clients, people to hire. Many of these things that I've found, when I started looking for them and I told my friends what I was looking for, people told me they would never find them. They were too impossible. My list was too impossible, but I did find them. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about why I think right now COVID is such a good opportunity, because this is a chance for us to actually reset. We're so much has been disrupted. So many of us, maybe we actually don't have jobs right now. We have this big period of time where we can sit and we can kind of, think and reflect. We can step back and look at our lives, and it's a chance to rewrite the definition of what we think success looks like. Do we have to just assume that success is what everybody else thinks it is? No, we actually don't. It's a chance for us to choose our list of values and priorities. This is something I never did until the last few years, where I actually sat down and I said, what do I think is most important in life? And then I built a life around that instead. And this is a chance to intentionally create a future based on that set of values that you have chosen for yourself. So today, in the speeches of the people that are to follow, I would recommend, well, first of all, these are the two, as Jardine said, that we're going to talk about two different sections of the event. And one of them is kind of how to craft the future you, and one of them is how to craft or choose your future career a little bit more intentionally. And I'll leave you with this simple idea, is that if we wait until the choices are in front of us, and then we look at all the different choices and we try to select them based on pros and cons, benefits analysis, cost benefits analysis, whatever. You look at all the things in front of you. And let's say right now you need to get a job, and you go out and you look for all of the places that you might be able to apply, and you open up a job platform and you start scanning through them, and you look at 7 and you just apply to 3 of them, and then you get a job. Okay, well, that can work. And I'm not saying don't do that, but it's a bit incidental, right? Because you hadn't actually said, what am I looking for? You just went out and just did what everybody does, and you looked for what is out there, right? But what if you did something different? What if you sat down and you said, what are the things I care about the most? What matters the most to me? Maybe it's environment or culture or location of the office or type of work you're doing or thing you want to learn, or the energy the people around you will give you, or where you might end up working in the future. There's like a lot of different criteria that you might have. And this is just in the job, talking about getting a job. This could work with anything. This could be, where do I want to live? This is who do I want to be friends with? What kind of circle do I want to have? If you start to decide what the top criteria are and you really rank them, say, okay, the number one most important thing to me is not actually money. It's learning and growth. I want to feel like I'm getting better and more confident. Maybe that's it for you. And if you make that list of criteria, then you can actually imagine the perfect place, for example, to work. And what if you wrote down the perfect description of the place you want to live or the place you want to work? And maybe it's not what happens tomorrow, but if you have that really written down, you might be surprised that you can go out and find it. And then you will also know maybe a little bit better who you need to become to have the life that you want. So my recommendation is get more intentional about life by taking time to actually write down your values, what you care about the most, and then define the decision before you go look at all the options. Then when you go look for the options, you're only looking for the ones that match what you've already said you want. And so today, I thank you guys for being here so much. And I hope that what we're talking about today will be valuable for some of you. And we'll record this. It'll be available. I hope you share it with other people. And it's basically just a gift. We wanted to help people because this is a really difficult time for so many people. And if there's something we can do that's useful, we thought we would go ahead and go for it. So thank you guys so much for being here. And I'm going to turn it back to Jardine, who will take us through the rest of the program.
Thank you, Eli. Thank you for sharing your story with us. And thank you also for motivating us to really be intentional with what we really want in life and who we really want to be. So guys, yes, we are recording this. And if you have questions, just place them in the chat box, chat room. And by the way, we have 53 people with us. Thank you again for joining us. We actually have a surprise for you later, because since we are really pushing for growth and self-development, one of the materials that we can use is really reading books. And with that, we are giving away fully booked gift certificates. So we will have a raffle later. We will pick lucky winners who will have the fully booked gift cards. All right. So let's now go to our first part of our event, which is, see again, I have a código. Expanding your possibility space. Our first speaker is going to tell us about how, now that we kind of have an idea what we really want to create, how we really want to go through the uncertain times in a certain way, let's try and figure out how do we now present ourselves like a rock star. Like gone are the days when you go to the HR and say, you're so shy, I'm sorry, I cannot do that. But now our speaker will share with us how you will become the best version of you. Now our speaker, she is our partner success champion, and she is also our systems ninja, and she's the person that I compliment with. Ladies and gentlemen, Veronica Britannico. Take it away, V.
Thank you so much, Jardine, and good afternoon, everyone. I love writing my resume. I can't wait to write my resume every single time I apply for a job, said nobody ever. Whenever you walk into an interview, you realize one thing really quickly. There are so many people like you. Same course, same school, same experience, same specialization, even the same company. But every single time you prepare anything for any application, whether that's your resume, your cover letter, or your interview. Everything you do should have the same message. There is nobody like me. Hashtag baka naman. Hashtag sana all. But how do you show yourself and the interviewer that you are the best fit while still standing out among people who are similar to you? If this sounds like a question you've asked yourself many times, then you've come to the right place. As Jardine introduced, I'm Veronica. I've processed over or close to 100 applicants for various jobs at Valhalla. And today my mission is simple. I want to share with you the most common mistakes I've seen and the most uncommon things that made the best applicants stand out. Let's begin with the basics. My goal today is to show you the building blocks that every strong applicant should have. These are some things that sometimes some people take for granted, but trust me, they make all the difference. I'll also show you throughout my presentation a few examples and how you can customize it to make it your own. Whenever I sit down during interviews, you guys, one of my icebreaker questions is always, so, have you stalked our company yet? And let's be real, you would think most people would do that, but you'd be surprised because 8 times out of 10, the answer is actually no, which is a shame because imagine we research more about what to eat for dinner and what next movie to watch on Netflix than the company where we imagine ourselves spending at least one day, but at most like anywhere from 3 to 5 years of your life. Can you imagine? We don't spend nearly enough time understanding the company, the role, and ourselves. So one thing I would love for everybody to start making a habit of is researching the company very thoroughly. I'm not just saying look at their LinkedIn, also look at their website. Stalk the founders. You know who our founders are. You're very much free to stalk them. Understand the why behind what they do, because then it will help you see if it aligns with your own personal why. Next is also understanding the role. Most people walk into an interview not understanding or not knowing what's the expected salary for that position. What are the skills of people in the same role, right? And I'm not just talking about people with that role within the organization, but also outside of it. One site that's really useful for this is Glassdoor. So if you make an account there, you can see the different salary ranges for that role. You can even compare it by industry, by area. So these tools are at our disposal. We are the Google generation. So there's really no excuse not to be finding out these things. Another thing that's under research is understanding yourself. You can bet that in every interview, there will always be a variation of this question. So tell me about yourself. And I have a big tip for you. If you don't want to ask yourself who you are, or if you're not inclined to reflect, or if you find it weird, or it's not something you have time for because your interview is in 15 minutes, then go take a personality test or go read up on psychological frameworks and let them tell you about yourself. 3 of the best tests or frameworks that I've encountered are the Myers-Briggs test, the Enneagram, that's Enneagram, and the 4 Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin. Now, I'm not here to debate on how accurate they are. That's for another topic. But definitely, at least to answer questions about your strengths, your weaknesses, right? And what kind of jobs excite you and motivate you, and how you respond to work and to other people, then these can be a good place to start. Another building block is understanding values. So values means different things, right? When you say value, one way to look at it is to consider it in terms of contribution. Whenever you write down a job on your resume, here's what most people do. They tend to copy the job description from when they applied in that job, maybe, I don't know, 2, 3 years ago. Then they put it on, paste it on their resume, call it a day. Everybody does this. But again, if you are applying for a job, especially if it's your dream job, you don't want to be like everybody else. So one thing that you can do is actually reflect on each job that you have done, every task that you've taken. So contribution plays in very much with data here in this model we have here, because with data, I want to invite you to put numbers into what you put on your resume. For example, if you are a developer, make sure you already know how many projects you've worked on. How many years have you been a developer? How many frameworks do you know? Where do you want to go? What new technologies or frameworks have you tried or are you currently studying? These are data that's useful not just for the interviewer, but also for you, because you also want to understand where you're headed and not just randomly apply, like Eli mentioned earlier. Lastly, when we talk of values, we also consider qualities or principles. What really matters to you? Do you like an environment that's competitive? Do you like an environment where everybody kind of leaves each other alone and just has their hoodies up? Or do you like an environment where everything is collaborative, where there is ample training? So these are things that's important to ask yourself and important for the employer to know, because believe me, there are so many unhappy employers and unhappy employees who could have probably gotten off to a better start or never started at all if they only knew what the other wanted. Now that we have the building blocks down pat, let me share with you a template for what I call the elevator pitch or summary for when you are describing yourself. So some of the key things to consider here are, first, have ready 1 to 2 adjectives that really describe qualities you're proud of in yourself. Next, of course, know what you're bringing into the role based on skills, right? And also have an understanding of the trajectory that your career has taken. I'll show you an example in a while. Then also make sure that you throw in some unique information and also mention your short-term and long-term goals. So it sounds like I said a lot, but really all these things can fit into 3 sentences. And let me show you how. 3 to 5, fine, but you can play around with that length. Okay. Great. So let me give you an example. This summary is something I created together with my friend Jose, because we worked on his application for a certain tech giant whose name starts with an A and ends with an N. Now, he is a developer, and what's unique about him is that he's actually not a computer science graduate. He graduated management engineering, but he taught himself how to code, and this was something that we wanted to highlight in his resume, right? So these are some of the roles that he had through the years in the company that we both worked for. And then he also mentions in his last sentence, what are the things he's looking forward to? Now, to contrast this, because I understand there may be some of us here who are not developers, maybe there are designers, maybe there are people who are in sales or marketing in tech. I want to show you another example from my resume, the same resume I used to apply for this particular position. So this is what mine looks like. I collapsed 6 years into these 4 paragraphs and made sure, another very, very important tip, this is why you have to understand the role very well. I literally got certain keywords from the job ad and put them on my summary. Now, this is what they say when they say it's to your advantage when you customize every resume for every job, because it just shows that much attention to detail, and it definitely shows just how badly you want that job and just how well it fits you. So these are some tips to remember when you craft your own. And then I'd be happy to share these templates with you. Just feel free to add me up on LinkedIn after this, so no problem. So this is tiny, and of course, again, because 15 minutes is hardly enough to cover a lot, really. But this is a glimpse of what Jose's resume looked like before we started on it. I mean, obviously, it was made on Microsoft Word, right? And it looks like the layout came from the 1990s, the early 1990s. Now, This is what it looked like when we were done with it. Everything that you see on the left fit into this one pager. And finally, we got some color going on. It's very simple. It's just blue. But at least it gives a little bit, it's a lot fresher to the eyes than the tombstone formatting, as we call it in journalism, that we saw in the left example on the left. So this is Jose's resume now. And then it's very clear, you see the headers. And another thing, when you're laying out the resume, feel free to play around with different layouts. Guys, the 2-column layout is your friend. It makes it look easier, sleeker, right? And also lets you fit in more. Now, if Jose's resume was made, the first one was made on Word, the one on the right was actually just made on PowerPoint. But there are now so many more options you can use now. There's Canva, right? If you're really extra, you can use Photoshop. If you're a designer, you probably know XD or Illustrator. Use whatever you need, as long as it's fresh, as long as it's complete. Great. So now that we have the resume down pat, let's talk a little bit about nailing that job interview. So can you guys comment below, who is this person you see on screen? Yeah, it was actually my college picture. No, not really. Of course, it's Miss Universe 2015, Pia Wurtzbach. So she is up here, not to distract you, though it probably did, but because she's a good example of somebody who was just ready for the role. You know, she prepared, right? And what is one phrase that can you comment below her trademark or her catchphrase? Confidently beautiful with a heart. Everybody thinks she thought of that. But did you know that the slogan or the motto of the Miss Universe Foundation is actually beauty with a heart? So Homegirl actually did her research. Basic. Everybody could have done what she did, but she rocked it and she put her own flavor and she injected that into her answer. And that is the same spirit that you want to have when you go rock that interview. And you can really only do that if you've prepared your research beforehand. You know your values and how they align with the company. So be prepared. In fact, when Jose and I were preparing for his Amazon interview, one thing that I actually asked him to do was to look for, we put together a list of questions that the particular company that he applied for had publicly available, right? Things that they ask their applicants. And then we tested out his answers. So I made him answer them. Just I recorded him. So he was just answering whatever. And of course the answers were long-winded, right? But that's okay because that's the first try. You can always just proceed, record yourself again, clearer this time, and knowing what exactly you want to say because you already did the rehearsal the first time. So the more frequently you do this kind of preparation, the more natural you will actually sound during the interview. Now, besides being prepared, another thing is to be direct. And you, again, like what I mentioned in the example with the recording, you can really only be direct if you already know what you're talking about. Then you can get to the point right away. Second to the last point, in order to present like a rock star, you have to be proud. You are bringing all these years of experience that you've had, and you can bring so much more years to the company that is lucky enough to be chosen by you, right? So be proud of yourself and make sure this shines through. Because honestly, there have been so many interviews where they were really, really, really great candidates on paper, but they just were not confident about it. Last point. In order to present like a rock star, be you. Because you owe it not just to the company that has taken time to interview you, right? To take you in, to consider you as one of the candidates, but you also owe it not just to the self that you are now, but also to the future self that you want to be. So thank you very much, rock stars, and I look forward to hearing about how all of you are confidently employed with a heart. Thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you so much, V. That was amazing. And I feel like I'm really becoming a rock star by the tips and the things that you are sharing with us. Now, for those who are watching, if you're taking down notes or if you're waiting for this recording to be published, I think you are in for a treat. So, thank you so much again, V. And I love the part that she actually placed her college picture so that we will all be prepared to be direct, to be proud of who we are, and to be our true selves. Thank you. All right. So now that we have the mindset of becoming rock stars, the next thing that we need to do is to increase our value in the market. I have a friend who who is an online seller, and she mentioned that it's not just the product that we actually sell, but it's really ourselves. How do we increase our very selves into this changing and competitive market? Let's find out with our second speaker. And our second speaker is our company, our Valhalla co-founder, and I would see this person as an operations genius. And if you talk with him in his sentence, you will never miss out on him saying the words dope and cool. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Garrick Tate.
Thank you, Jardine, for that introduction. And I did not realize. I think you're right. Cool. All right. So in this talk, I want to talk to you guys about how to increase your value in the market. We just now heard Veronica give an amazing presentation about how you can show yourself off like a rock star in the interview process. And in this talk, I'm going to take a kind of a step back from that and say, what are the things you can do, outside the interview process? Let's say maybe right now you're not looking for a job, or you already have a job, but you're thinking of the long game. Where would you want to be in 5 years, 10 years from now? What are the things that you can do in order to dominate your market and really add incredible value to your companies? Because then you can start asking for higher and higher salaries, and you can also start getting more and more rewarding positions. So let's jump right into it. So in this talk, what can you expect? You can expect to learn 5 things. First, you're going to learn about how to think about increasing your value in the market. How do you frame the problem? You're also going to learn about what skills you should be considering if you want to start expanding your tech stack. So this talk is specifically, focused on the development, in the IT industry, talking to developers, but a lot of this stuff can be applied to non-developer roles, but this will be specifically for developers who want to consider learning a new tech stack. You're also going to learn what makes the biggest difference in your future ability to get a high paying and high rewarding job. Because I can say I have done literally hundreds of interviews and I have read hundreds of resumes. And if I could boil it down to just one thing, this will be the slide where I share that. And this is a long game technique, but within 5 years, if you focus on this, you will be shocked at how much you will be earning differently. Fourthly, I will explain what you should consider if you're going to be building a portfolio. And then lastly, I want to teach you some tips and tricks about how to nail specifically a technical test during a technical interview, since I think a lot of you guys on the call might enjoy that. So let's jump right in. So first thing, how do you contextualize this as a problem? Like I said before, I have done hundreds of technical interviews, and I am honestly shocked at how people could be working maybe 10 years, 20 years in the IT industry, and yet they're not able to ask for large salaries. They're not able to get the positions they really want to get, even though they have so much experience in this industry. Because sadly, the truth is that having a lot of experience is not enough to nail the jobs that you want, unless it's the right type of experience, unless you have experience doing the right types of things. So you need to be thinking about this very strategically, thinking about what are the points of leverage that you can harness that make the biggest difference? Now, these are questions that you should be considering not only during the interview process, but even if you're, like I said before, are very happy with the job you have, you want to be taking the time to really consider what is the things you can be doing differently right now to nail the next job cycle you're going to be on. All right, so let's jump right into it. What skills should you be learning? So many people here are not interested in learning new tech stacks. If so, hopefully you've picked some good ones. But for those who are interested in growing your skills in a new tech area, this is the talk for you. So this question of what technical skills should you be learning will vary from year to year. It will vary from geography to geography as well. I will tell you right now that the hiring environment in Cebu is very different than the hiring environment in San Francisco, which is very different than the hiring environment in Hong Kong. And all of that is dynamically shifting year over year. So this question, I can confidently answer for Cebu and I can confidently answer for the Philippines, but you will know that if you look online, you start asking experts, you will get different answers depending on what is the industry and what is the geography that they're located in. So, but let's say that you are located in Cebu or in the broader Philippines, what should you consider first and foremost? I would suggest first and foremost that you think of mobile development. Specifically, mobile development using a hybrid framework, such as React Native or Ionic, but a framework that can work on both the iOS store and also the Android store. The demand for this tech stack is through the roof in Cebu and in the larger Philippine community, and yet the demand just has not caught up as much as it has in other languages like, I don't want to name names, but mobile is a fantastic place to consider if you're wanting to expand your tech stack capabilities. The second one I would recommend this to just about anyone, even if you want to stick with a similar tech stack to what you already have, and that is DevOps. So if you have never touched Jenkins, if you've never investigated the GitLab CI/CD frameworks, if you never touched a CI/CD pipeline at all, this is something you should definitely consider checking out. DevOps as a role is right now the highest paying job outside of like the most CTO, executive levels for technical developers, not just in Cebu, but also all over the world. And it looks like it has no signs of slowing down. So I would highly recommend that you investigate some sort of DevOps experience and look for opportunities to be growing your skills in this way. And those would be the two top skills I would recommend that you learn if you want to be expanding your tech stack skills. All right, so now, as I said before, what is the biggest difference it will make? What is the number one thing you could be looking for or doing that would make the biggest difference in your future career trajectory? Not just this year, but 5 years now, 10 years from now. Because like I said before, I have been shocked at somebody who I've interviewed who has maybe only 5 to 7 years of experience, but they have experience in the right things, they were in the right circumstances that allows them to get very different job roles than someone who maybe has 20 years of experience in the wrong thing. And all of it boils down to one simple fact, and that fact is they found mentors in their career. You want to be finding mentors in your IT career. Now, the two places this can apply to the most is that if, first and foremost, during the interview process, you want to be interviewing for a job that has mentorship capabilities. So during the job interviewing process, you should be asking them as many questions as they are asking you. You can be asking them about what is their culture like, asking do they support mentorship in their do they support mentorship in their careers? How many senior developers do they have? What do they consider to be a senior developer? Are there senior developers the type of people who are excited to answer questions, etc.? So this is something you can be looking for in your ideal company. And I would suggest that if you could get a slightly higher paying job that does not have mentorship capacity versus a slightly lower paying job that has tremendous mentorship capacity, I would suggest that you consider taking the one that has mentorship, because like I said, 5 years from now, you could be asking, I'm not exaggerating, many times as much in the future. The other thing I would recommend is if you can find experience leading teams, because hiring managers will always be looking for people who not only can do their job incredibly well, but also organize other people towards a company vision. So those would be the biggest differences I would recommend. And I see, are there some questions in the Q&A that would be worth answering as of right now? Let me check. So I see one question from Masaki Mitsushi. I hope I'm not butchering your name. I apologize if I am. Hi, Garrick. How do you manage the impacts of COVID-19? I'm getting chats right now. There are some Q&A if people wanted to do this. Okay, so I'm a little bit lost for words. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer this one question by Masaki at the end of the talk, and then we'll do most of the Q&A at the very end of the whole speech. I see since Masaki, I just see my name pop out. I'm going to answer that at the end of this talk, and then we'll move on. But before I dive right into that, I want to explain how should you be thinking about building out a portfolio item that you can be incredibly proud of. So many people on this call are not actively engaging in building out a portfolio. If you are not, then you definitely should consider doing so. From my own experience and from talking with many of my friends who are also hiring managers in this industry, if there are two applicants who are applying, I will always hire the applicant who is similarly skilled, but also has a portfolio. It gives you a tremendous edge, especially if it's a portfolio piece that has, first of all, a beautiful design. That's the number one thing you should be considering when building out a portfolio piece. Even if it is mostly a back-end focused framework, you want to be finding a third-party front-end template that you can use. I would recommend looking into Twitter Bootstrap because essentially by building a beautiful front-end design, the first impression of those who view it will assume that the back-end design is equally beautiful. And so that is something that should be considered to a great deal. Now, beautiful front-end design cannot hide bad code underneath it, but it can showcase it in the right way, and it can stop there from being any distractions from the beautiful back-end code. So even if you're a back-end developer, consider spending some time picking out the best front-end framework that you can and the best front-end template that you can. The second thing you should consider when you're picking out a portfolio item to build is one that has a good story behind it. And what do I mean when I say good story? I have looked over portfolios that were beautiful, that were really well presented, but I could not relate to the kinds of problems they were solving. I think one portfolio item that is very common is a beautiful front-end design that shows off movie catalogs. Nothing I've ever worked with ever has anything to do with catalogs for movies. I could not relate to the story behind that product. If you're going to be building a portfolio item, think about building a portfolio item that the hiring managers you would be talking with could relate to. So I'll give you guys one example to think about that. Every person in the technical industry has some experience with having to deal with task management and with bug tracking. If you build a bug tracker that would take both a front end, a back end, and a database, this could be a tremendous way of showcasing all of your skills with a story that the hiring manager can relate to. And then as an added bonus, you could put the bugs of the bug tracker into the bug tracker and mark them as done as you complete them. So in a way, the story of how it was built out is embedded into the product itself, and it's easier to then present to any people who would be a future hiring would be considering you for a future position. And so with that now being said, I want to go into the last part of my talk, which is I want to talk with you guys a little bit about how you deal with this, what is for many people the scariest part of the technical interview process, which is taking a technical test when somebody is watching over your shoulder. This is something that we have conducted many technical interviews, and it is probably the part that most developers get the most stressed out about, which is, I would say, for good reason, because a lot of people do not know how to take a technical test properly. I am surprised at how many people who are senior developers have trouble taking technical tests when other people are watching them because they just don't know the steps that they need to take in order to do it properly. And so these are the important things that you should keep in mind whenever you have to do a technical test during a technical interview process. The first thing, and this is probably the most important thing, is you want to write the question down. Writing down the question does a couple of things. It will allow your subconscious time to process the problem as you're writing it down. That could be over, typing it. If you're standing face to face, writing it down on a notepad, that works as well. But by writing it down, it gives you time to be thinking of the question subconsciously. Also, as you write it down, you're forced to crystallize the thing they're trying to communicate to you in a way that's already it's crystallized. You're crystallizing the thought or the question that they're trying to give to you. Another thing that I would suggest is, as you're writing it down, you want to focus on what will be the inputs of the technical test and what will be its outputs. What will be the format of the inputs? Will it be a JSON file or a text string, or will it be a number, et cetera, et cetera? By focusing on this, it allows you to frame the problem properly into its input and output state, so that you can then focus all of your time into the middle. What will the function actually do? And the added benefit of doing this is, once you finish writing it down, you can then ask the hiring manager, did I get this right? Is this what you are looking for? Does this make sense? And you will be, I would say, miles ahead of most people who take technical tests, which is they're trying to figure out what the question is asking before they even get started. And it's a massive handicap that people don't realize. All right, with that being said, the last thing I want to say about this, or the last two things I want to say, is that as you are taking the technical test, you want to be talking out loud. You want to be transparent into what your thought process is, because the hiring manager has probably seen other people take this technical test, and they want to see when you discover problems and how you're thinking through those problems. I can say, as a hiring manager, we are a stressed out bunch, which means we'll always assume, if we hear nothing but crickets from you, if we just hear quiet, we won't be able to follow what it is you're trying to do, and we won't be able to give you the benefit of the doubt to really understand how you're processing the problem. And so being able to talk while you're doing technical tests is a massive edge over other competition who would be taking similar questions. And lastly, to prepare for these types of things, I would suggest you check out codewars.com. There's other websites out there that do this similarly, but I would recommend Code Wars. This is a great place where you can take practice questions ahead of time and start gaining the experience and the confidence, so that when it comes time for you to take a random question thrown at you during a technical interview, you will know that you can do it, which is really 90% of the battle in these things. Just calming down, writing it down, being confident in your skills, and you will do much, much better in these situations. All right, with that now out of the way, would you guys recommend that I answer this question from Masaki now, or I think I'll just wrap it up for now? Okay, I think, Masaki, I'll answer your question at the end. I'm looking forward to diving into it. With that now, I will pass the mic back over to Jardine.
All right. Thank you, Garrick. Thank you so much for showing us these very on-point tips on how to increase our value in the market, especially in the field of software development and in coding, right? So thank you again. Right, now for your questions, I know you have a lot of them, and we really appreciate and we welcome your questions. Just write them down in the chat group, and Jai will be the one to look at to forward it to us so that we can answer it later on. All right, so now that we have established how to become a rock star and how to increase our value in the market, let's go to the next stop, which is how do we find the best opportunities in this changing market. So we have self-check, skills check, value in the market check. Now, how do we find what's really what is it really that aligns with us? Okay, so without further ado, let me introduce you to our next speaker. He is our our senior full stack web developer, and aside from that, he's also a capoeira enthusiast. He's the reason why I admire capoeira even more. And also, I like this person because he's very intentional with growing himself, and he has been an inspiration in the tribe as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, Arnel Basiliote. Arnel?
All right, thank you for that introduction, Jardine. Okay, so finding the best opportunities in this changing market. So actually, this question has bogged me down for years. So how do I find this opportunity is the best one? 'Cause as an employee, you would always want to look for the best, right? So I all throughout my employment years, I have been dealing with this question every time I resign and apply for another one. So I thought I was done with this question when I joined Valhalla, and then um, the organizers asked me to give this speech, and here I was looking for looking for answers again. So I tried to Google, and all the answers I found are just like a bunch of clickbaits or those articles that just attract people to visit their site for traffic. So then I realized I'm just not gonna give you a recipe on how to look at the best opportunities there is, but to share my experiences and the things that I took as a guideline on how to land a good one or the greatest one. So who am I? So I'm Arnal as introduced again. So I have been part of the workforce for since 2015. So that's roughly 15 years, right? So current employment and benefits. So currently I'm working in Valhalla Online Services Incorporated as a senior web developer. And I have this following responsibilities. So one, I create high-level apps for different clients. So we have these clients like they give us their part of this business and we create those into an app. Second, I set up servers and automation tools that will aid with our deployments. I've heard Gary talk about this, like the CDCI stuff and the Jenkins. So that's part of my responsibilities. Third, I also give out scope and estimates on incoming projects. So these are very challenging tasks, right? So benefits, what I get in return as working as the senior dev in Valhalla. So one, it's a challenging work environment, which for me is a good thing. Might not be to yours, but for me it is. Second, I have all the growth support that I need. Number one, we are allowed to read books, lots of books. We have they have fully supported us in joining Toastmasters Club and a lot more. And then the third one, and for me is one of the most important, is I'm able to share my knowledge to the junior devs who wants to grow their skills and want to be mentored. So all these great things that I was able to land now, that didn't come in like a flick of a hand. Um, there were some challenges along the way because I haven't learned to look for the best opportunity yet. So there were failures and I've learned from those failures. So this is the time where I'm going to tell you some of my experiences. So one, I was applying for this job. I was done with the full hiring process, done with the interview and the exam. The job offer was given, but then suddenly it was retracted by the employer. And sad to say, at that time I already did submitted my resignation from my current employer. Another failed employment. So the work that we agreed before starting the job was not honored or upheld by the employer. So we before on the hiring process, we talk a lot about building these great apps, these great solutions. And then when I started, we just ended up building static websites, which is not part of what I want to be, right? So next, so coding standards or the standards that I do more work is not up to date, and I considered it as a step back to what I am currently learning and the thing that I want to be. So it's not a good setup for me back then. Next, oops. So employed by a company that prioritize clients over employees. So what happened is I told my employer I don't like the job, I don't like the client, and then he told me that if you don't like the client, we can transfer you to another client because we don't want to upset the client that you are currently in, and we don't want to do that. And if I don't like that client, I have to resign. And I did, and I haven't finished the day. They told me to pack and then go. So enough with the sad stories. So how to find the best opportunity? So number one, first is you have to define yourself. You have to define your values, your goals, what you want to be, how you want to be, and then you also have to define your needs, financial, medical, other things, or growth, environment, or any other support that you want. So you have to ask yourself, what is your why? Right? So in a much relatable quote, para kanino ka bumabangon? So you have to ask yourself that. Second, based on those things you've listed, you have to define the criteria that you will look for an employer. So third, as discussed with by Veronica, you have to do your research. Do your assignments, please. So number one, you have to know the company's why and see if it will go hand in hand with yours. So first is you have to learn the company's mission and vision and see if again if it fits to what you want to be. So second, learn about the company's values. So is the company growth oriented? Are they more on a client based and client first mentality, or are they pushing for reliability? So those things you have to learn. So next, learn about the company's background, like attrition rate. How good is the company taking care of its employees? You have to know, like for example, what is their culture, what is their environment, and if possible, you have to ask other employees on how they feel about the company. Are they well compensated with the work that they're giving to the company? Is it a good place to find growth? You have to ask those people if the things that you need will be given by the company. So things to remember. So number one, it's not all about the financial benefits. So yes, I understand that all of us have to work to provide our needs, right? But it doesn't end there. So you have to ask for more, and you have to define what you want in life. So don't focus on the short things that you can get, but you have to focus on the longer things in life. Like for example, what's your 5-year plan? What do you want to be? How you want to become this and that? You have to ask yourself and look for those in the company that you want to apply. Second, employment is a partnership. So it's not a one thing that you have to give work for your employees, but it's a vice versa kind of relationship. It's a mutual relationship where you can win and the company win as well. So it's not something that you go to work and then just wait for the end of the day and go home. You spend more or less 50% of your life in the company, and you have to make sure that it's well worth it and you're getting the return of the amount of work that you're getting. So third one, so both of you and the company should grow together along the way. So again, the company's vision, the company's mission, and its values should go hand in hand with yours. And you have to make sure that it hits your sweet spot on the things that you needed. And make sure that along the way, as the company grows, you grow as well. Okay. So to end my presentation, I'll leave you this quote. Good companies do it for the money. Again, good companies do it for the money. Great companies do it for their employees. So that's it, guys. I hope everyone get some values out of those guidelines that I presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Arnel. That was awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, kayo, para kanino kayo bumabangon? Because that's true. Each time I also talk with a candidate over the phone, because I tell them what is it really that they want and what matters most to them. Because it's not just a clock in, clock out thing. No, we're not just here for the 15 and 30, and we spend like, yeah, Arnel is right, 50, 60% of the day working, and for what, right? So, Arnel, thank you so much for giving us those tips and for sharing us your stories and your insights, how we can really look for the best opportunities for us. So, like what Eli said earlier, in a buffet, we thought that we just have to accept everything that's right there in front of us. But now we just have to be very intentional, right? So, thank you. And that ends our part one. So, right now we have the concept of already of creating certainty despite uncertainty, how to become a rock star, how to increase your value in the market, and how to really intentionally look for the things that you really want to be doing and for the things that you really want to become. Okay, so today is our question and answer portion. This is my favorite part because we get to interact with you guys, and whatever questions you might have, we'd be more than happy to help you out. And for those who are in the panelist list, could you see me if I do this? I'm trying to open the question and answer box. Can you see it or no? Okay, good. Right. So we have a few questions here. Right. Let's either Eli, Veronica, Garrick, and Arnell, feel free to answer whichever suits the question. We have from, I'm going to read your names, because your names are very beautiful. Masaki Matsuashi, hi, thanks for being here. In interviews, do you usually propose the higher part of the range of your salary, or do you mention the low one? What is your preference?
Hey, Jardine, who are you? Who's supposed to answer?
Oh, this
Maybe can I suggest that
mhm.
Garrick and Arnell answer the questions that were just directed to them for starters?
Okay, sure.
I think Masaki asked Garrick something about. Garrick, do you have that one? Are you prepared?
Yep. So this one I wrote a written answer. So the question was, right now so many industries are being impacted by COVID-19. It really impacts a lot of people who are right now job seeking, especially if you didn't expect to be job seeking recently. So what are the things that you can do if all of a sudden you become less relevant? How can you increase your market value? If your industry that you were wanting to get into has changed dramatically and maybe their demand has reduced. So that is a fantastic question. I wrote a longer written answer, but I'll repeat some of it here and maybe add some new data. So that is a great question that will also, the answer will vary from industry to industry. Every industry will have kind of its own unique puzzle box. And so ultimately, the name of the game will be how can you take the skills that you've learned before and either repackage them, maybe they are, and when I say repackage, I mean how do you market those same skills in a new way if the demand for those skills has either gone away or shifted? How can you repackage them in a new way, going for new jobs in an industry that is still growing or is still has a plethora of opportunity in it? And then behind that is a real question of how do you even know how to repackage your skills? And for that, the two things I would recommend, first of all, is talk to people who are successful in the industry that you want to go into and be very specific about the skills that you have and very specific about the skills that you think that you might be lacking. And then they can give you advice in that specific area. Specificity is really important in this way. Let's say though, if you don't have mentors in that area, or you need, I'll just say the second part super fast. If you don't have mentors you can talk to face to face, I would recommend the work of Richard Koch. That's Richard spelled and then last name spelled Koch. He's basically like a philosopher, business magnate, and the way he thinks about business is unlike most people out there. His books are also very short, though they're pretty packed. And I would recommend reading his books if you want to wrap your mind around where industry is going and where markets are going and how to position yourself in them. So I would recommend STAR Principle, and also there's like 52 laws or some number of laws of business. And those would be the two books I would recommend. All right, that's it.
Awesome. If it's okay, Jardine, I'll jump in and answer one here. That somebody said it's anonymous. I don't know who it is, but wait, where is that one? No, Sam said this. What's that? I don't know.
It's on the last part, in the most bottom part.
The one for you?
The one that you think the anonymous one.
No, there's another one.
Okay.
Actually, Sam said, what's the most important factor you would consider in a job interview, considering that most developers, if not majority, are not confident in speaking? Does anyone here have any of the panelists have any thoughts on this or any suggestions how you could perhaps address this? I'm not a developer, so I don't know if I should try to answer. Arnell, you're a developer, right?
Yep.
But
Okay, yeah.
You feel pretty confident speaking? How did
Nope.
that happen?
First thing is, well, communication is not really our cream of the crop, right? So we're coding. We are used in working alone and being buried in our keyboards and our monitors, right? But we have to make sure as well that those things supports us in our craft, and as a person, depends on your goal, that this is a supporting skills that you have to learn along the way. It's not forever that you'd be coding, and it's not forever that you'll be buried in a one-man team. But then if you have goals of leading a team and be a manager or own a company, this communication skill is a certain necessity, right? So you have, what I can advise in that is go watch videos or subscribe to an online course, find mentors that can teach you or guide you on how to achieve this. That's what I think.
And I'll just add really quick. I think we need to move back into the program in a minute, but we can add in the chat invitations to local clubs here in Cebu called Toastmasters, if you guys have heard of them. I don't know, but Arnell is a member of Toastmasters, so is Jardine, so is Veronica. Actually, we encourage anyone in our company who would like to improve their confidence and speaking ability to go practice. What's cool about Toastmasters is that it's like a very safe place to kind of make mistakes and not be so good at communicating. That's where Garrick and I met. We were both trying to get better. So we are better than we were. And it's a really good place to practice, kind of be scared, not be good for a while, and then start getting better, because you get feedback from people that are there to support you. And I think that there's no real way to get better at communication than just lots of practice and feedback. That would be, so thanks for that answer, Arnell. Jardine, I'm going to let you take back over. I just wanted to answer that one.
Can I answer one more question before going back?
Do we have time, Jardine? Go for it.
Do we have time?
Yes.
Okay, sure. So I'm gonna read the question. So, hi Arnel, in an era where fake news, understated, and overstated reports are prevalent, what tips can you share about finding the right trend? Would you suggest having basic data screening and analyzing for job seekers? For me in general, I really try to stay away from like these blogs or those ads. What I can suggest though is you have to read books or follow those people that already has this credibility. Like there's a lot of people, like for example, Simon Sinek, Tony Robinson's. You can also watch impact theory videos. There's a lot of things that are going on online that are really, really credible, and you can just Google them if you want to. That's it.
All right, thank
I
you.
also, oh,
Yes.
sorry, is there still time?
Yeah.
Or, okay. Also, just another tip for you guys. It you won't usually find this in interview tip articles or whatever, but one way to perform better during interviews, studies have shown, or any performance really, even first dates, is before you go into it, watch some stand-up comedy right before, or something funny, your favorite Netflix series, anything that makes you laugh. Because number one, that instantly puts you in a good mood, right? That already puts you like the positive vibes will really just bleed through. Number two, it will honestly, if you make a habit also out of what, and I highly recommend that you do, out of watching stand up comedy, then you'll have a good sense for how to be direct, but still make an impact. So that's something that you can consider. It's not a common tip, but it works. Trust me. And then I'd also like to answer a question from Masaki here. He says that you mentioned earlier to use words from the JD in your materials and in your interview answers. How do you manage not being too hard sell? I think this is excellent. You have to always strike a balance, right? One tip I would give is for a resume, it would be really helpful to copy paste specific keywords. You know why? Because there are some companies, especially large companies, that use applicant tracking systems or ATS that do a keyword search on all these resumes, and then they already have like in within the ATS, they already rank you based on the system rather already ranks you based on how many keywords you actually hit. So for a resume, that's a go. Like actually use as much of the keywords as you can. But here's the key differentiator. During the interview, find a way to make that your own. Use your own phrasing. Definitely don't go be like, I am a team player. I am a you don't have to memorize the job description to do really well in an interview. But you do have to be prepared with your stories to back that up. And that's something that also comes with researching yourself. For every requirement in the job interview, make sure that you have a specific story or a specific instance or experience from your own career that illustrates how you were able to demonstrate that. And that will really make all the difference when you do the application. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for all of your questions, guys, and thank you to our panelists who are very enthusiastic in answering them. And for those who still have questions, just go ahead and ask them away. If we don't have time, again, we can still communicate. We can still connect with you. You can add us in LinkedIn, right? So before we proceed to the next part two of our program, I am going to pick two winners for today's raffle. You know how much I love raffles, but I never actually won in one. So this time I'm going to give the opportunity to let people win. Our first winner, and there's no drum roll, but I know you can imagine a drum roll in your mind. So our first winner for our fully booked gift card worth 500 pesos, we have Francis Lian Abayata. Francis, hi, thank you. You won a gift certificate from Fully Booked. Now, what's going to happen is that I will be sending you an email with the code so that you can use it. And with that, kindly just key in your email address to me. You can send it to me privately so that I can send it to you afterwards. All right? Okay. And our next, I'll be picking two winners for today. The second one, let me just go to my randomizer. All right. The next one is Maricel Orcom. Maricel here? All right. Yay! Awesome. So congratulations, Francis and Maricel. You just won your fully booked gift cards. I'm so happy for you. All right. So let's now proceed to our next part of our program. So after expanding your possibility space, let's now go to having high performance habits for happiness. Now, a lot of times I could just hear people say, but I want to be happy. Everybody wants to be happy. But then we have to work on it, right? So now we're going to share with you the things that could help us really go for the highest peak to be happy. Happiness is a choice, sabi nila. Sabihin ko rin. Right. So the first one will introduce us to the work from home concept, especially at this time where we are really just staying at home and a lot of us are already working from home, or some of you might be considering working from home. So we will be calling on, oh, I consider these trio the three wise men. Aside from them being an expert in their field, they also pursue other things such as entrepreneurship, music, and life hacks. Exactly the reason why we are bringing these people to give you the life hacks on working from home. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have Ralph, Neil, and AJ. Ralph, take it away.
All right. All right. So, guys, good afternoon. Can you hear me clearly, guys? So, yeah, welcome to the work hacking your work from home environment session. So, I'll be on this session. I'll be talking about working from home hacks, tips, and tricks that you can be productive at home. So, without further ado, I will be introducing our first speaker for this session, and he is the best React developer that I knew, and a master of React JS, and he also loves music. And without further ado, let's please help me welcome senior JavaScript developer Ariel J. Katarina. Take it away, Ariel. AJ.
Hi guys, I'm AJ. I'm one of the developers here in Valhalla, and I'm gonna share with you my own work from home hacks. So the goal is to be productive, and work from home is a lot more challenging than you thought, at least at first. So let's jump to my number one hack. It's to uh, know your major distractions. It could be the people around you, it could be your neighbor, your mobile phone, your social media notifications, games. So the first step is to know your distractions, then you can strategize. So get to know first your weaknesses. And I'll share with you a story. So me and my wife, by the way, we both work from home, but because of ECQ, we needed to go to my in-laws' house to take care of them. Then suddenly it's no longer my system. It's no longer the system that I'm used to because it's not our home. So it's kind of similar to how people feel when they are new to work from home setup, especially they're used to office setup. So what we did is we set up our own office space there, which also helps inform the people around us that we are working. We're not just doing stuff, random stuff on our computer. And yeah, it really helps, but it was still challenging. But because of that, I'll share with you my next hack, which is the power of music. So I've read some neuroscience articles about music, and I've learned that music helps us control our emotions, especially when we are working and sometimes we are having a bad mood. Sometimes we're just very irritable, but music sets the mood. And also, have you ever wondered why when you hear some laai songs or songs that are usually played on a Sunday that easily makes you feel bored or sleepy? So that's a display of the power of music. But with music, with me, I use it in two ways. So first, when I do deep focus work, work that require a lot of mental work, so that's what programmers do. They think and think and think, solve problems. So for that, I listen to slow tempo music, instrumentals, jazz, chill hop. The less lyrics, the better. And also, when you work, there are also some mundane tasks that you just need to do it, and sometimes you feel bored easily. So for that, I listen to high tempo music, happy songs, sometimes metal, funk, or punk. So I listen to Weezer, Red Hot, Panic, 21 Pilots. If anyone there could relate. So I encourage you to invest in a good pair of earbuds or headphones, and even invest in Spotify Premium if para no ads. uh, for my next hack, this hack, I learned this from Garrick, one of our founders here in Valhalla. It's having a morning routine. So um, it could be as simple as doing 30 jumping jacks a day, or as intense as doing push-ups while reading a book, if you could do that. The thing is, you need to prepare your body for a whole day of sitting, or because when you're working from home, you just sit. Maybe others would just work, lie down on their bed, but you need to prepare your body. And doing exercise keeps you mentally sharp because of the hormones that are produced when you pump your body up. And also, you could do meditation. That's what I do. It's as simple as being grateful for the day, or a short prayer, or just reflecting on good thoughts, and that makes your mind strong. So when I was at my in-laws house, I was not doing my morning routine anymore because it's a different setting. I need to adapt, or I need to adjust. And many days my energy level at work was lower, and I easily get irritated, especially that time. It was April, May. It was so hot. So I wondered why is this happening why is this happening to me? But when I realized, I came back to doing my morning routine, which is doing push-ups, jumping jacks, and just having self-reflection. And after that, I was feeling a lot better and more excited to work. The goal here is not just to become productive at work, but also to be happy doing your work. So those are my hacks. Thank you. So for our next speaker is one of the best backend developers here in Valhalla. Let's hear from Neil.
Thank you, Master AJ. So, hi everyone. So sometimes we call each other Master. So Master AJ, Master Ralph. So hi guys. So have you? I think you remember about the Infinity Gauntlet, right? So the Infinity Gauntlet has 5 Infinity Stones, and the Space Stone, the Time Stone, something Stone. But anyways, for my work from home hack, so I have like not 5 but 4 stones. So space, light, temperature, time. So space, light, temperature, time. So it's really easy to remember. So we just show it here. So yeah, that's my hack. So we can start with the space. So control the space. I actually learned this from a YouTube video by Kursky Zagat, and then It says that control the space means sanctifying the specific place on where you work. So that really means, that just means that you have to do, you have to set that space exclusively for work. So example for me, when I browse Reddit, so I don't do it in my workspace. I do it somewhere outside. When I eat, I also don't do it in my workspace. I also do it somewhere outside. So the good thing about this is that it trains my subconscious to say like, oh, you're not doing work related things, so move out. And an even better thing also is that when I sit back in my workspace, then my subconscious will now tell me, like, ah, you're now in your work zone. So now be in work mode. So it's actually very, very awesome. And then one thing that can also help with controlling the space, so space, light. So that is control the light. So light actually adds to the atmosphere of your own exclusive workspace. So example for me, I have a color changing light bulb, so I can just switch it to warm yellow and bright white. And then when I am chilling, I just switch it to warm yellow. And when I'm working, I just switch it to bright white. And then, so it also helps also in adding not really the illusion, but it helps in also maintaining that this is now your work zone. And then you should now be in work mode right now. And then so you, but for your case, you don't have to buy a color changing light bulb. So I'm not advertising anything here, but for your case, you can use like a desk lamp when you're now working, or you can just adjust the windows to bring in more light or something, just so you can have an exclusive space and an exclusive light when you are now working. So, and after that, one thing that can also help with controlling the space and the light is control the temperature. So have you encountered when you leave your house and then you experience like about 35 degrees Celsius of heat, and then when you go back inside your room, it is so hot. It's as if the sun is just outside the window or something. And then so that's where the control the temperature comes from. Since you're working here in your specific and one place, then you have to also control the temperature as well. If you don't have aircon, just like me here, don't have aircon in my room. So what I did is I have two electric fans, one that shoots to my face and one shoots directly outside the window. So what happens is it circulates the air around, and then at least it doesn't jumble up all the warm air inside the room. So it actually makes the place more cooler. And last but not the least, this one is not really that physical, but it really helps in the physicality, is control the time. So this means your time. So this means that you have to write down your time. So you yourself should write it, and you should put that time to where you can see it. So the good thing about this is that you yourself can see, oh, this is my schedule now. This is my schedule for working. Is- So I mean, it's now 8 a.m. So now we start working, and then right there it says 9:30, it's time to chill. Okay, so I have to chill. So that's the important thing for controlling the time or writing down your time. And I should emphasize on the important part of the break, having the break time with in the middle of your work, because it can really helps with with your productivity and all that. Okay, so those are my four stones: control the space, control the, what is it again? Control the light, control the temperature, and control the time. So thank you so much, guys. And up next, so this awesome guy is an amazing hacker, both work from home hacking and computers. But don't worry, he's a good guy. So he's probably the long lost brother of Tony Stark or something. So guys, please help me welcome our full stack developer, Ralph Arco.
Hello, guys. Good afternoon. So for today, I have a question for you. Are you working at home already, or are you planning to work from home? Or are you struggling to focus on working at home? So I'll be answering the struggling part. So in the next 5 minutes, I'll be sharing to you guys my hacks based on my own experience working at home. And I'll be using my name as an acronym, and I'll be giving you two examples per letter of the name. And disclaimer, guys, I'm still working on some of the stuff that I'll be sharing to you guys, and maybe get your pen or papers because I think there's some that needs to be taken out. So let's start. So let's begin on letter R. So letter R is for remodel and recreation. So for me, remodel is remodeling my room. So I clean up my cluttered workspace, and it helps me clear my mind. And what I did is I clean up my table, clean up all the clutters, and Yeah, it helps you clean up your mind when you clean up your room or your workspace. Second one is recreation. So recreation for me is what I did is I created a simple small basketball court outside, and because of COVID, we cannot play anymore or something like that. So so that I can do recreation like shooting or playing sometimes in a week or something like that. And what I can suggest to you guys is just do exercise. Like for me, I do 3 times a week exercises. So what I can just suggest is 4 types of exercises so that you have no excuses to work out from home. So first one is doing push up. Second one is pull ups. Third one is squats, and the fourth one would be sit ups. So if you don't have pull up bar, I think I can suggest you can buy it on Lazada. You can just look it up and you can just put it on your bedroom door. So yeah, in my case, I did that. And next one would be letter A. So let's go to letter A first. So A would be acoustic or music. Like what EJ said, um, music is very important in our work. So for me, it helps me focus more on working. So what types of music I'm listening to? So I listen to classical music like Mozart or Bach music. And I'm following a playlist on Spotify that is called Deep Focus. So while I'm working, I'm using that music so I could focus more. And the next one for A is art. So art is making art and shipping it and or giving gifts to others. So this idea came from the book Lynchpin by Seth Godin. So I recommend and suggest you guys. And for those who won earlier, so I hope you would buy this book also. So that's it. You just read that one and you'll get many things about it. So with regards to Lynchpin L, let's go to letter L. So L is late night work. I cannot recommend this to everyone because late night work is not for everyone. So for me, I do late night work because in the morning and in the afternoon, it's very noisy in my house and um, it's so hot. So I choose I choose late night work because it's more cold and it's more quiet and everyone is already sleeping at that time, so I can focus more working at night. So that's why I choose to work late nights. And another L is love your job. So loving your job is the most important thing, and is the one way to make also an art. And don't work for money, work to give value to others. So that's very important to think about because we don't need to work for money, but the important thing is to give value to others. And let's go to letter P. uh, Oops. So let's go to letter P. This letter P is another book that I can recommend to you guys. The Power of Full Engagement. So um, I suggest you can buy or search for this one also in the internet. And what I can relate to Power of Full Engagement is that technique called Pomodoro. So Pomodoro technique has short rituals of recovery like the book has shared. So that's why I can relate Pomodoro technique with the power of full engagement because in Pomodoro technique, you can focus in 25 minutes. After that, rest 5 minutes and actually it depends on your type of work. So you can just adjust the minutes. But the important thing is you need to have short rituals of recovery like Olympic athletes do. So another and yeah, it helps also with my productivity on work. So and I have an app that I can recommend that I'm using for Android users. So the name of the app is Focus To Do. So just look it up on your Play Store if you want to use it also. And another P is prayer or meditation. So prayer or meditation, like also EJ have shared earlier, for me, I do prayer and meditation every night and also in the morning. So when I go to sleep and also when I wake up. Um, I do it because it helps clear up my mental fog, and it can help us focus more on the most important things in life. So um, we must. I suggest you also do that prayer and meditation. And yeah, let's go to the next letter right now. So H is for hydration. So for me, I'm always putting my water beside me like this tumbler because hydration is very important on our body as well. Because based on what I've heard or what I've researched before, when you look at your screen, if you're working on your screens, it dehydrates you. So we need to drink water always and just put a tumbler or a glass of water beside us always. And the last one for H is health is wealth. For me, I have an experience last week regarding the health, my health, because I am a asthmatic person, and because of that asthma, my productivity went low last week. So right now I'm still recovering, but um, yeah, for me, we must look into our health because it's very important, and yeah, we must look it look in our health always. So to wrap it up, guys, um, R for model and recreation. Next is A for acoustic, and another A for art, L for late night work and loving your job, and P for powerful engagement and prayer or meditation. Next one is H for hydration and health as well. So I hope you guys got one or two things from those that we shared to you guys. So lastly, I want to remind you guys, or I want to remember, share a quote from me. So stay curious and keep learning. So back to our main host, Jardine.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Neil, AJ, and Ralph. Those are very practical, relatable, and timely hacks that you have for us for those who are working from home. I actually read one of the questions in the chat room regarding working from home as a mother. I'm a single mom and I have a 7-year-old son, and I'll be sharing with you some of that as well. All right, awesome. So next, now that we have an idea how to hack our work from home environment, now let's go ahead and see how we can actually manage our energy. Basic science says everything around us is energy, but how do we really manage it? So I'm going to call again our co-founder, Eli Harrell.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Jardine. Thank you so much, everyone, for your hacks and ideas and tips and learnings. I hope that the people listening are getting some value out of this. So this part will actually be a little bit of a conversation to break it up somewhat, so that it's not just speeches all night or all afternoon. But before I jump into this, I want to tell you that if you're still here, please make sure you stick around because the next speaker, probably we should have put him first. Actually, my good friend, the dean of the business school at Southwestern University, Danny Sarasin, will be speaking next. So please stick around if you can. All right, so jumping in, and thank you, Danny, for being here and waiting to the end. We really appreciate that. All right, so I want to talk about in Valhalla we have 4 core values. We have one of them. I won't go through the 4 of them for time's sake, but one of them is we call it full energy and full engagement. So we, it's challenging to show up to be your best self every day, to have high energy, to be happy, to bring the best you every day is very, very difficult to do consistently, and to be fully engaged with the people that you're around. So I really work on this myself now, and I did not before. Like in my 20s, I just worked and worked and worked. I thought the goal to be successful was just do more, work more. If I had to, if I wanted to be successful, I just needed to be more efficient. productive. And I learned by my early 30s that that was actually a really bad idea, because I ended up being very unhealthy. I had headaches, I had back pain, I had, oh man, it was really bad. I just was a very unhealthy person with bad energy, and I was not fun to be around. I was easily upsettable. I was just not my best self almost ever, and I wasn't happy. So in this part, we're just going to talk a little bit about managing your own energy, and something I only started really focusing on in the last 6 or 7 years was learning about habits, like building habits, so that I could generate great energy and keep it at a high level. And so I feel so much better now than I did in my early 30s. And I'm 43 now, and I feel so much better than I did when I was 33, probably even better than I was 23. And it's because I've built habits that have helped me maintain physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual energy. And earlier, Ralph referenced a book that I also read a few years ago called The Power of Full Engagement. And this book really helped me to think about the habits that I have in these 4 areas, just to make sure I keep my energy high. So I'm not going to really talk about my habits. What I want to do is actually get 2 people from our team who I think have done a good job. So Ralph and Jardine are 2 people, kind of like Neil, who you heard earlier. Is like, they just bring this super high positive energy all the time. And I think, most people on our team are really good at that, but there's a couple people where I just, like, every time I talk to them, they just make me feel happy. And that's who I wish I was more. I wish I was more like that, where I could just bring super high, super positive energy to people all the time. And so I think Ron and Jardine are just really good at doing that so consistently. And I wanted to just ask if they would share some tips on. And so Ron, if you're here, are you with us? And can we go ahead to the next slide?
Yes. Hi.
All right. So Ron, I wanted to ask you if you could share with us some tips on how, what have you built as habits that help you maintain such good energy all the time? And, maybe tell us a little bit about your story of how you maybe weren't always this way, and how you learned how to do it. So I'll let you take it away.
Yep. Good afternoon, everyone. I heard.
Yep, you're here. We can hear you clear.
So hi, everyone. My name is Ron, and I am a programmer, and I usually start my day at 10 a.m. and ends at 12 midnight. So here's what I do, and you can also do this too to maintain your energy throughout the day. So I have this 5 basic list of things that I make as a habit, and I'm gonna start with food, because food is energy, and you are what you eat. So if you want to be more energetic, eat foods that are high in energy. You can always Google it. So if you don't have those kinds of foods yet because of this pandemic, you can always take multivitamins to compensate the missing nutrients that you did not took during your meal. And most importantly, eat at least 3 times a day, super basic, and eat at the right time, okay? And the second thing is you need to have good rest in order to have good energy, because if you don't have enough rest the night before, you'll be feeling tired the next day. And also, I don't work straight from 10 a.m. up to 12 midnight, because that would be very tiring. Instead, I take some rest and relaxation every 2 hours by walking in and out of the house, and take some time talking to some people in the neighborhood. And also, I take naps in the afternoon to recharge my body for the evening work. Okay, and the third thing is hack your environment. So this is a must, especially to those people who are not yet used to working from home. You need to create your own office spot, just like what my workmates discussed earlier. And that way you can condition your mind to work when you are in your working spot. And also, a thing to note is don't work in your bed, because your mind will always favor rest than work. You'll end up sleeping more than working. So that's it. And the fourth one is just stretch, don't lift weights. So this is self-explanatory, because stretching promotes good blood circulation that results to proper oxygen supply throughout the body, especially the brain. And I specified not to lift weights because once you lift weights and your sweat is started pouring out, your brain will tell you to lift more because of endorphin. Your brain makes you feel good while lifting the weight. And as a result, in the later part of the day, you'll be very tired. So don't lift weights. And the last thing is mindset. This is the most important thing to consider because your mind is more powerful than your body. We all have mindsets. Some are positive, some are neutral, and some are negative. And most commonly, our mindsets are widely influenced by our culture. But what I suggest is you need to have a growth mindset. It means that you're always up for challenges for the sake of personal growth and experience. Just like this one speaking, I know deep inside that this is some scary stuff, but I also know that I could grow by doing this. And having a growth mindset makes you feel more energetic because you'll be feeling excited for the day, for the new learnings and experiences to come. And also, but so for some people that haven't started growth mindset yet, I suggest you start with gratitude practice or by just being grateful of what you currently have and think about how lucky you are. And speaking about gratitude, I also want to say thank you to the people in Valhalla for all the opportunities and experiences and lessons that I had during my journey as a ninja. And going back to mindset, aside from gratitude, you can start by taking some little dosage of motivation by watching YouTube videos every day. For example, from my idols, the Tony Robbins, Simon Sinek, Jim Rohn, and Tom Bilyeu. I watched them because these guys gave me motivation every day. And as a result, it makes me more energetic. And watching those videos become your habit eventually. You may not know it, but you'll be wanting to watch it every day. And lastly, one last and most important thing, you need to have goals for the day, for the week, for the month, and then ask yourself, is what I'm doing today contributes to the fulfillment of my goals? That's it. So there you have it. That's my 5 basic list
Awesome.
of.
Thank you so much, Ron.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that. Ron lives in the up in the mountains a little bit in south part of Cebu City, and I've always, when I talk to him on the phone, he always has different ways of keeping himself in a good mood. He has a bunch of different tables where he works and outside sometimes, and just does a great job of managing his lifestyle to stay happy, and I love it. All right, so next we have actually our MC, Jardine, who is a single mom who works from home and is someone who just shows up with amazing energy every day. And I know that it is not easy for her to do so. So Jardine, could you also, like Ron did, kind of just share a couple of the tips of what habits you've created that you maintain that help you show up with great energy pretty much every day?
Yes, thank you, Eli. And yeah, I do show up with great energy every day. Depends on how you actually define energy. Because even I admit I do have breakdowns. Just this week I had two. But I'd still say that I have great energy. And that's why I love it when Eli invited me and Ron to speak on managing your energy. Because the word there is manage, not really like take control and choke the life out of you because I have to be this, I have to be good, I have to be positive all the time. I don't work that way. So one of the things that I do to keep my energy level up is to dedicate my mornings to running. Like I run almost every day, and after that, while I'm running, I also practice gratitude attitude. I just look at the sky, I just look at the trees, and then I start counting all the things that I'm thankful for, even the things that I don't really like. Like sometimes I am thankful that my son would sometimes disturb me at work because it teaches me patience. And aside from that, I manage my energy by embracing my true self. Now, embracing my true self means both in good and bad days. Because if I deny myself in bad days, I will have twice the trouble maintaining my energy levels. If I am fully aware that I am having a breakdown, that I am having a bad day, my energy is just spent on that one particular thing. But if I conflict it in my mind and say, you're not supposed to feel bad because you're a mom and you're working, yada, 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 then I would have twice negative energy as I should. And then aside from that, very important, like what Ron said, we take naps, power naps, 15-minute naps, just to refresh myself from the things that I do and to reset. So all throughout the day, um, I would say that I do have very good energy levels. And if anyone here who is watching, you might find it difficult. That's the thing. It is difficult, no lie, but it is not impossible. So I encourage everyone that no matter how difficult it is, we should have this sense that we have to manage our energy because it's already there. It's for us. So we'll use it the best that we can. Right, Eli?
Awesome. Jardine, thanks so much. And I see you as someone who really puts in the work to maintain your energy, and it inspires me when I'm off my routine. But I will just share, to kind of wrap this part up, that I read a book maybe 2-3 years ago called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. It was the first time I really dug into the concept of having a really tight morning routine, or a very consistent morning routine, starting extra early. And I thought, it can't really make that much difference. It can't, something that simple can't make that much difference. Guys, I'm telling you, if all humans would wake up at 5 a.m., run, meditate, practice meditation, learn the value of that. When I miss those two, there's a lot of other things I like to do in the morning. I like to read, I like to journal. I think it's really valuable to do those things, do some learning, and work out. But the two most foundational things that I've learned over the last 3 years, that if I don't do them, ask the people that work with me. They like me a lot more when I run and meditate. If I don't, it's very hard to show up with good energy. And I cannot believe how much of my life I went without having a morning routine. So I would recommend, if you do nothing else, just start to build a consistent morning routine, and see if you can wake up a little bit earlier consistently, go to bed a little earlier. Now I have a nighttime routine sometimes, and it's so much, it's just like the foundation of having the energy you want every day. All right, so thank you guys so much, and now I will turn it over back to Jardine to take us to our next speaker.
All right, thank you guys, and Ron, thank you so much for that. Okay, so now that we know how to, we have an idea how to manage our energy and how to hack our work from home environment. Here is another thing that I would really say we are facing as a challenge right now, because I am a hugger. I love hugs so much, and in this time I have very little social contact, and we are social beings, so we are faced with that challenge. And we are so honored today because we have someone who will share exactly just about that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have with us our guest speaker. He is the Dean of Business School in Southwestern University. I have met this professor myself, and he's very, very fun to talk with. You could talk with him for like hours and you'd never get bored. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Mr. Daniel Serafin. Let's give him a round of applause. Sir Danny, hi.
Hi, can you hear me now? Yeah, thank you very much. I like the photo that you choose. Okay, I've listened to all that has been covered from the start, and I'd like to contribute from the point of view of the businessman. Okay, and since I represent our school as the dean, let me quickly deliver the 4 fundamental skills that we wish to impart to every student. We call that the 4 C's. Number 1, critical thinking, which a lot of you have, or all of you have. Then communications, you know, everybody is communicating. I love that. The 3rd C is creativity. It's all there in the discussion, how you work from home and how you control the environment with all your hacks. And then finally, which is my topic for 50 minutes, collaboration. So critical thinking, communication, creativity, and collaboration. Gone are the days when we in business or in our various professions work alone. We achieve big things, bigger things when we collaborate with others. And collaborating does not come naturally. It's just a skill that needs to be developed. So I'll cover that in the next 15 minutes. Okay? So collaborating also involves networking with talents like what you have, or talents that you don't have, or talents that you want to put together so that you can achieve a bigger project. Okay, I call it Networking 101 because it's designed to be the simplest. So I only have 1, 2, 3 points to make. And let me show now the first point. I call it the Onassis method. The name Onassis, if you are not my generation, probably does not ring a bell to you, but his full name is Aristotle Onassis, the Greek tycoon. Okay, what made him famous aside from being the Greek tycoon? Well, he married the former American First Lady, Jacqueline Kennedy. So that made him famous. That's part of the story. But the Onassis method is exemplified in the way he developed his career. He was not a Greek tycoon from the beginning. He was a nobody. But he worked as a telephone engineer in Argentina because that's where he found his opportunity. Along the way, because the telephone exchange at the time was manual, he helped in connecting from one number to the next. He stumbled on important business information, which he acted on. So he kept a notebook, and in the notebook are the people he wanted to meet and be part of his network. So secret number 1, keep a notebook of people who share the same talents or who share the same values as you have. Put them in your notebook. It could be your electronic notebook now, but at that time, and even my time now, I keep a hard copy notebook. By the way, it's also the secret of Richard Branson, the chairman of Virgin Group. So whether you are high-tech or low-tech, keep a notebook of important people you want to meet. What is the idea? Well, Onassis at that time was a lowly engineer. He wanted to become a businessman. And so he kept a notebook of people he wanted to meet. And he started meeting them one at a time. What was the first opportunity? Well, the first opportunity was for him to launch a business making cigarettes. Then he moved into another network of the celebrities who will endorse his brand of cigarettes. He made money that way. So he started becoming an important businessman. So during the day, he dressed up like a businessman. But he still kept his work because the money is not enough to be full-time businessman. At night, he wore overalls of an engineer. So he has day shift and night shift. Lesson, when you are gearing for a career trajectory and you are working for it, dress the part. The other source of that lesson is William Shakespeare. I love theater. You have to dress the part that you want to play. The world's a stage and everyone plays a part. So you're not faking it. You are working for the results that will make you an important businessman. And he became an important businessman in the tobacco cigarette industry. He kept on adding to the people in his notebook. Then he realized that the cigarettes do not make as much money as the cargo ships that load the cigarettes and cigars and tobacco that he produces. So he went on to the next level of network, the shipping industry. And what did he do? It was the Depression in the United States, 1920s. So his network led him to buy the ships at 75% lower because it was Depression time. He was useful to people who are in bad times. And in the process, he developed the biggest private shipping fleet in the world. And that made him, that launched him into the Greek tycoon status. How? The people helped him build his business network. In fact, during World War II, he was contracted by the US government to ship war material and food materials, and only Onassis was spared from the bombings of the Germans. So the rumor is he had also a deal with the Germans. He networked so well that he had no enemies. The Americans and the Allies are for him using his ships. And the Germans and the Axis powers are also his friends. That's how good he is. Okay, so lesson, final lesson from Onassis. Be useful to the network. It's not what you get from the network, but it's what you deliver. So that your network thinks of you as a professional who is useful to the bigger network that you belong to. You don't exploit. Okay? Which leads us now to the next method. I will now call this the Mitsubishi way. Mitsubishi, for your generation again, is the largest general trading company in the world. They are into everything, literally everything. And the mission of Mitsubishi from the founding was to engage only in large enterprises. They are into rice, for example. But when they engage in rice, it's shiploads of rice. Okay, so they are into airplanes, they are into automobiles, they are into chemicals. These are always in large volumes. And because they're into everything, they cover the world. They are the ultimate generalists. They can make money on very little, what we call margin, because of the efficiency of the network. So, what am I saying? How did Mitsubishi develop such a vast worldwide network? I worked with Mitsubishi because of a joint venture in the Philippines, and I noticed when we visited Divisoria, the wholesaling capital of the Philippines, they know the details of Divisoria in Metro Manila better than any Filipino. I was amazed. How did Mitsubishi do it? Well, they kept information, like, they kept a network like Onassis, but this time in a deeper and a broader way. Okay, Mitsubishi says, I do not need this network immediately, but I will keep this network for the future. So if Onassis is for the immediate, Mitsubishi is for the future. You are never going to be useless if you meet people from Mitsubishi, they will keep you in their files. And true enough, after 30 years, you may be useful to them. Can you imagine that? So you have now an immediate short-term network, and you have the Mitsubishi way for your long-term network. And that's how Mitsubishi developed its vast trading network all over the world. Okay. What is the lesson? Onassis was be useful to the network. What about Mitsubishi? Be loyal to your network. Even if they're not useful immediately, be true, be loyal to your network. Because when you need them, you can just pick up the phone, and then you have developed such deep relationship, it will happen. Okay? So, immediate network, long-term network. Be useful, do not exploit, do not think of what you can get. Think of what you can give. Mitsubishi, do not think of today, think of 50 years from now. That's not just Japanese. That's the way business works for the long term. And then finally, to the present. I call it the science of chaotics, which is a live case. This is what's happening now. The world is not orderly. It's not linear. It's not predictable. In fact, the opposite is true. It is random. It is unpredictable. In fact, what is happening now, it was totally unexpected. We had COVID and nobody is prepared for it. Not our university, not anybody in the world, not even the United States. You know, blaming China, etc., wouldn't help. So what do? We adjust. We embrace chaos. Because chaos is actually science. At the bigger scope of things, we think the world is orderly. But the atomic level, the atoms are always moving around. We call it technically, scientifically in college, the Brownian movement, random. Okay? So, what do? We combine the old and the new. Okay, let me make examples of the old. In the old style of networking, I like the British. The British are so formal. They will never talk to a stranger. They will always say, I'm sorry, we have not been properly introduced. And that works for them at that time. You have to have somebody who will introduce you to the important people you want to meet as part of your network, so that your career can advance. Get somebody who can introduce you. That's British, even up to now. But here is the other kind. I like the American way. The American way is introduce yourself. So you can, right from the beginning, introduce yourself like a rock star. You know, I remember the first session. Talk to a stranger. Put your best foot forward. So, who is better, the British or the American way? Well, I say embrace both. You know, have a fusion of both the old and the bold American rock star approach. And it worked for me. Sometimes I talk to a stranger in a business event, Marco Polo Hotel. Well, that stranger turned out to be the executive vice president of Apple One in Cebu. So I have now a very good network. What if I didn't talk? If I was shy or I was waiting for somebody to introduce both of us? There was nobody to introduce both of us, so I cannot use the British way. I like the American way. You have to feel which one hits you at the moment. Okay, let's move further. Technology. Before we have the old style, and now we have the click of a button. Social networks, professional networks, and it hits you from all over. So what did I do? I choose only what I can manage. Otherwise, I'll be overwhelmed. I tried Twitter, I cannot maintain it. I tried Instagram, I cannot maintain it. So I kept, for my own purpose, Facebook, for the general network, and also LinkedIn for a specialized professional network. At LinkedIn, for example, I have over 12,000 now, but basically, like Mitsubishi, I keep them. And what happened? I have 3 best results. One of them is Eli. We met through LinkedIn. You see? And that's part of the American way. You know? The other 2 are professionals based in Manila, and they are now members of our faculty. Somebody invited me, oh, Danny, would you like to be a speaker to our LinkedIn talk? I never met him before. You see, if I were British, I would not even bother to entertain him. So I choose to be American. He was also choosing to be American. Introduce yourself. He put his best foot forward. He introduced himself like a rock star, put all the package together. I said, yes. And that was very good. So now he's a member of our faculty. Okay. What am I saying? This is a fusion of all the things available to you. Your generation is blessed in that context. You have technology, you have tradition, you have the fusions and the combinations that you can manage so that the results will be in your favor. Okay, so let me now draw the lessons. What is best for you? The Onassis method, where you need immediate results, or the Mitsubishi way, where you look for the future while you are waiting, okay? There are principles there. In the Onassis method, it is what we call hunting. You hunt, you don't develop. In the Mitsubishi way, it's called the law of the farm. You prepare the soil, you plow, you scatter the seeds, then you water, you nurture, you remove the weeds, and then you harvest. So hunting is good, the farm is good, but you have to wait for the farm. You cannot harvest without planting. And then make your combination. In technology, where speed matters, you have to be judicious because it's chaotic. Everything will hit you from everywhere. And you have to be very good in judging which ones will make you useful to your network so that your network will in turn respond so that it will support your career trajectory. Okay, let me draw from my example. I was a corporate executive in Metro Manila. So my network is in Metro Manila. Little did I know when I was invited to become dean in Cebu that I have to relocate and my network is left behind. So what did I do? I went to Cebu and started from the almost zero level of network. I just knew a few people and I made myself useful to that network. I did not ask for a favor first. I did them a favor. They invited me, Danny, can you sit down in a panel for 2 days? I said, okay. I said, yes. If I ask permission from the university, my superior will say, no, you cannot get out. Why? Because they're so traditional before. You know, the dean is not supposed to go out of the classroom. I said, no, the president has a mandate to develop the business network. So I boldly accepted. I disappeared from my desk for 2 days. And now, 3 years later, we are reaping the fruits. We are harvesting from the network. We call it the Industry Academy Partnership. And we have developed that. Every year, we have new partners. So, we take it from experience. Finally, how did we do it? Well, it did not come easy. Your career is so important. Either you're an entrepreneur, freelancer, part of an organization, you have to find your collaborator, your network. So what do? You have to judiciously invest in time, effort, and money. You have to allocate time for career development, professional development. It will not happen without you intending to really meet the people you want to meet. It will not happen without making the effort. In other words, instead of going there, you will be going this way because your network is this way. So instead of sleeping and idling away, I choose to connect during after office with professionals who are like-minded. For example, through the Cebu Business Connections. Again, the network through Eli. That's a very good example. How did I meet Eli again? When we joined Mandawi Business Conference. I haven't seen Eli for 7 years maybe. Suddenly we were surprised. You're here. I said, you're here also. But we didn't have anything to do together. But later on, Eli became part of our faculty, you see? And it was not in the agenda at the beginning. What did we do? That's the Mitsubishi way. Just keep active people in your network. Finally, you invest money. So time, effort, and money. A cup of coffee is not much, but the gesture will give you what we call, Lee Kuan Yew, a lot of social lubricants. It will smoothen out relationships. So invest in a cup of coffee. It doesn't cost you a fortune, right? Okay. If you can add something to the coffee, well and good. Okay. But the idea is you have to have social lubricants. The other social lubricants are good conversation. If your conversation is idle and useless, how will your network keep you? Right? So you must be updated. You must have something to add to the energy level, to the creativity level of your network. So your network is happy to have you every time you get invited. Like this, I was surprised, I was invited, so I dropped all my other appointments, and I said, okay, I'd like to meet all these people. So I invested time, effort. Well, I didn't spend money because I cannot treat you to coffee, And this is what makes COVID-19 good. We network without spending too much money because all we need is a Zoom, okay? But the idea is the same, okay? So in summary, remember the role models or the cases, as we call it in the business school, Onassis method, okay? You have something to go day to day. Then the Mitsubishi way. You have something to sustain you for the long term. Be loyal to that. And then finally, you have technology. Embrace it, but use judgment. You cannot have everything. You have to choose for yourself. You have to have your own filters. The professional group I get from LinkedIn. The general group I get from Facebook. In between, well, I get many scam offers. That's part of the chaos, right? You have to be judicious. Some people offered me a lot of money. I said, okay, you come to the Philippines, but don't send money to my bank account because I will go to jail. That's money laundering and it's against the law. This network offer you a lot of money. You have to have judgment. So you choose because in the science of chaotics, they're all mixed together. Okay. Now, what happens here? I have now a new network. Some of you are new to me. The others I already met before, but I don't remember. Like Veronica, I never thought that we met during the Toastmaster meeting before. Okay, but I'm happy to be reminded by her. Okay, so this is the network that sustains me in Cebu. While my Manila network also keeps in touch with me. The biggest thing that happened with COVID-19 is we are now forced to go global. And then I never realized that my global network exists. I just didn't keep in touch with them. So now that we have COVID, we are forced to keep updates with North America, Canada, Korea, and they're all there. They're happy to be updated in the technology network. Aren't we happy that we have COVID? We are forced to have MBA online for our school. So I tap CEOs that I have never thought I could tap before. I tap them from New York, I tap them from New Jersey, I tap them from India. And since we have no choice, we will have virtual, what we call shadowing of our students, so that our students will learn from them. And this is all possible because the network has been placed there before, the Mitsubishi way. I have no use of them, but when COVID struck, suddenly they become more important. And they're happy to contribute. With that, I will end my 15 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sir Danny. We are so honored to have you here with us. We are learning a lot. And that's true. We just have to really be intentional with who we network with. And even at times like this, we can still do something about it, like what we're doing right now. Zoom, Facebook, LinkedIn. So there. Right? So that wraps up our part 2 in high performance habits for happiness. So again, thank you to all the speakers, to everyone who made this possible, but most of all, thank you so much to our attendees. You have no idea how happy you make us feel for allowing us to just give back to you. And now, let's go to our question and answer portion. We have several questions here that I am losing track of already. But I love your questions, guys. Very, very interesting. I love how curious you are, and I love how you keep on becoming curious. Anyone who has questions to answer from the panelists?
Jardine, I think since we're running a little bit long on time, maybe we just, if Sir Danny would be willing to answer the one question that's directed at him, and then Lorna asked about IT freelancing. Maybe we could address those two, and then just wrap it up after that, because I know people have stayed a little longer than they expected to.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah. Yes, it's all right.
Danny, are you willing to answer that one question? You're still here? I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Yeah, Sir Danny is here.
You want to tell him the question and see if he's willing to answer that one?
Which was
The question was, Danny, if you could answer this one, do you think most schools have already modified their curricula to adapt to modern jobs that are mostly thriving online?
Okay, I'll answer this now. Okay, no choice. We have to modify everything. Okay, and happily for us, in the B school, MBA, not the undergraduate. In the MBA, we realized that our target market are working professionals who already have laptops and who already have internet connectivity. And therefore, there is no problem with going online. So it's just transferring the learning process to a new platform, the online platform. And when we adopted the case method, which by the way requires the student to prepare and discuss the case online, like what we're doing. It's just perfect. I said, okay, perfect for Zoom. So we simulated Zoom versus the other platforms, and we choose Zoom because of its reliability and ease of use. No advertisement intended for Zoom. So we are now online on Zoom, and we are, in fact, inviting all working professionals, given the flexibility of part-time, full-time studies. And we are doing a lot of campaigning now. So the curricula, in terms of content, will of course be changed to be more relevant. For example, we added more content on resiliency. These are not normal times, and we need businessmen, leaders, professionals who will not give up on the first difficulty. We call that resiliency, how to bounce back after meeting a lot of setbacks. How to get back up after falling down. The saying, our glory is not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. That's resiliency. So we added more on resiliency. It's a major issue globally. The other component related to resiliency is leadership. Leadership is what makes the difference between success, failure, or excellence and mediocrity. The leader sets the standard, sets the direction. So we added more content on leadership. What's happening in Cebu, for example? Well, you can see for yourself. We need good leaders in government, in the barangay, in business. The business initiative is there, but they cannot do so much because, the leadership in the bigger establishment, the local government and down to the barangay are not up to the crisis that we're facing. So leadership. Then we move to the other standard components. Marketing. It's not the traditional marketing only. It's electronic, it's social marketing, it's marketing on the internet. Okay. And then of course, finance and all the other components. But basically, it's the same way of doing business. You always have the financial statements, income statement, balance sheet is the same. What is different is the way of looking at the day-to-day things. So innovation. Innovation means looking at the ordinary day-to-day things in a different way. For example, because you're all IT, most of you are, it's the transportation. Uber, look at it differently. Instead of taxi, they look at it from the software point of view. And so now they're able to connect all the taxis in the world without owning a single taxi themselves. That's day-to-day in a different way. The same with the Airbnb. They don't own hotels, but they are the biggest hospitality company in the world because of software and another way of looking at it. And we can go on and on. The audience and your different contribution to this talk will lead to more innovations. I encourage you to collaborate. Talk to people who are not IT. They also have something to contribute. You can execute their ideas. Okay? In simple terms, what we mean is some people have the ideas, they don't have the resources like money and the talent. Some people have the resources, but they don't have the idea. So it's a matter of fusing them together. And in our business school, we encourage that. We let you play. Talent, ideas, resources. You all go in a chaotic mixture and we produce, hopefully, the best achievements, the best products from Cebu. Nice. That's what we have. And I'm so encouraged by your different hacks. I'm now talking your language. I'm not an IT guy, but I learned. And these are all part of the new curriculum, by the way, in the undergraduate and also especially in the MBA. I'd like to invite you to explore MBA online from our BISCO, Southwestern University. Thank you for this plug, Eli.
I also encourage.
By the way, Eli is part of our faculty, and he knows what we're doing there. Thank you, Eli.
Thank you. I feel honored. Sometimes when I hear you say that, I don't believe you. Thank you. Thank you so much again for being here this afternoon, this evening, Danny. Really appreciate it. I'm honored to have people like you that would do something like this for us. All right, so one last question before we wrap it up, because it is getting late. Garrick, are you still here? Is Garrick
Yep.
with us? Do you have any thoughts on real quick? Let's keep it kind of brief, but for Lorna, who asked about IT skills development in the Philippines.
Yeah, let me find that question, bring it up. I would like
It's the only one that's still open.
Fantastic. So the question is, in the world of IT freelancing, how do you think IT practitioners can build a solid enough career path? What is your outlook for IT skills development in the Philippines, and how ready is our workforce for adoption of more advanced skills, perhaps even entrepreneurship? All right, so the question is, kind of what are the prospects of the Philippines in the global market, and what are some things that the Philippines could maybe be doing better, or people in the Philippines could be doing to present themselves on the world stage, is what I'm hearing from that question. I think that people in the Philippines are probably better suited than anyone else in the whole world, with the exception of people maybe in Eastern Europe. So the only place where people, I think, are in a better position would be Ukraine, other places in Eastern Europe. I would say that the Philippines is positioned to really take the world by storm. Right now, the reason for that, it's very simple. It's because the Philippines has better communication skills for communicating with the West. I mean, America, UK, all of the even China is learning English at a faster rate than ever before. As countries are going raising up their economic status, they learn English as a language of business. So Philippines is in a tremendous position to take advantage of that. And what I would think that the Philippines will be learning more and more in their next stage of skill acquisition is largely, it's hard to limit it down to just one, but I would say probably DevOps. Right now, where the Philippines is at is there's not many senior developers that can lead massive teams, which is why a lot of companies sometimes bring in foreign CTOs into the country. And those foreign CTOs, they don't, I think, know too much that native people here know, but they know how to set up infrastructure. And so I would say that the outlook I would say for Filipino developers who want to really take the world by storm would be DevOps related and leading teams, which are the things I also brought up in my speech. That's my perspective on it. And Eli, do you think that's enough to say on it?
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. I guess the only thing I would add super fast is just that we're deeply passionate about helping people take more personal ownership of learning in general, and just how, if you can identify whatever skills would be valuable, you can teach yourself anything. I mean, we're just in this world where you can add skills all the time, and you can learn things on your own. Whatever it is that you want to learn, you can practice it if you put the work in. So yeah, I think as individuals, I think as a culture, what I'm hoping to see more of globally, but especially here too, is just that people don't just rely on amazing schools like Southwestern, that they keep learning after they graduate, and that they keep building their own, just constantly learning, because the world changes too fast now anyway, and you can't just learn once and go work the rest of your life. You have to keep building your own knowledge base as you go. So all right, well, I think that's cool for Q&A, and Jardine, I'm gonna let you take it back. And thank you guys so much. Thanks, Garrick. Thank you, Sir Danny. And
All right.
I'm personally signing off.
Thank you. Thank you once again, everyone, to our speakers and to everyone who made this all possible. And we are just very, very honored to have you all here. But before we go, we have 3 more people who we are going to announce who will win our fully booked gift certificate. So we are going to pick 3 more. So for our third winner, we have Merrick Lance. Merrick Lance. Oh, hi, Merrick. I'm so happy for you. And then the fourth one is Aris Kim. Aris Kim is here. And then the last but definitely not the least, King Joshua. You guys here? I think Merrick has psychic abilities. All right. So, guys, since you already registered, don't you worry. Your gift cards will be sent to you later after this program. All right. Now, I know you still have a lot of questions, and that's very, very awesome. So, you can add us in our LinkedIn accounts, or you can look us up in our LinkedIn account, Valhalla Online Services, or you could also um, add us in our group page, our Facebook page, Valhalla, our Valhalla Facebook page. Okay, so
That's pretty much it. You good?
yeah,
All right. Thank you guys so much for being here. And like Jardine just said, I think I'll just add this last thing, which is that this was just something we wanted to give as a gift to whoever might want to hear it. And if you now have heard of Valhalla and you ever hear of somebody who's looking for an IT job, then please refer them our direction. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed it. And thank you so much for being here. And Jardine, awesome job. And
thank you.
awesome day and have a great weekend.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you guys all for asking great questions. Bye.